The Gravedigger by Rebecca Bischoff. Chapter 1. Raising the dead was hard work. Cap had been warned of it. He thought he was ready. He'd expected back-breaking, soul-wearying, and bone-chilling drudgery, but not this. Here he was, underground, surrounded by dark and dirt, while a corpse lay inches away. His hands ached with a fierce cold, and his body trembled so that he could hardly control his limbs. Hard work? Didn't begin to describe it. "Hurry, boy!" hissed an ugly voice from the entrance of the black tunnel. Columbus Jones, or Lum, as he called himself. Cap's stomach clenched itself into a cold ball. The man must have poked his fat head into the hole, and his words stabbed through the darkness. "He's taking too long," Lum said. "The trumpets will sound, and the dead will all wake afore that boy finishes his job." A moment later, the distinctive voice of Cap's father, Noah, murmured in response. "He'll do it," Father said. "You'll see." But worry and doubt colored the man's words like a tune played on the wrong piano keys. That, more than anything, spurred the boy onward. He reached out and felt the cool, splintery wood with trembling fingers, found the head of a nail and pried it loose with his hammer. Despite the chill, a drop of sweat rolled down the side of his forehead as he tore away more nails one by one. And the easy part was done. Cap removed the head of the coffin and slid it behind him. Then, he seized the thick rope he'd dragged along. Now came the real test. He stretched trembling fingers in front of him. After an eternal moment, his fingertips touched a head of springy hair. "Mother of God!" he blurted as he wrenched his hand away. The cold ham he'd had for supper began to squeal and work its way back out of his belly. Cap scrabbled backward. "I can't do it," he thought, shaking his head. "No, siree." "Cap?" Father called. "Ready, son?" The man's voice was strained. Father needed him. Fighting the violent tremors that shook him all over, Cap brought the rope forward. He worked it around the head and shoulders of the unresisting body, and then moved it under the arms. The flesh of the corpse was soft, its limbs easy to shift. For all he knew, this person could simply be asleep. Thick braids tangled in the boy's fingers. It was a woman. Cap couldn't help picturing his mother, home in bed and sick with fever. Mama was swollen with another child who would probably be born too soon, like the others, and she plaited her hair when she went to bed. "We need the money," Cap whispered. Over and over, he repeated the words. Mama wasn't well. They did indeed need all the coin they could get. With renewed strength, Cap knotted the rope and gave the signal, a sharp whistle. Grunting softly, the men outside the tunnel pulled on their end of the rope. Inch by inch, the woman slipped out of her eternal rest, eased through the tunnel, and finally emerged above ground. Scrambling out after her, Cap stood and stretched stiff legs, gulping crisp air that smelled of rotting leaves. He gazed up at a patch of stars that sparkled through a tiny gap in the clouds. The pinpoints of light, like a scattering of diamond dust in the sky, made a comforting sight. "Help us, boy!" Lum hissed. "Don't stand there lollygagging up at them stars. This job ain't over yet." Blinking, Cap stumbled over to assist his father and Lum as they lifted the slight form of the back of the waiting wagon. Lum's shuttered lantern was open only a fraction of an inch. It gave a thin beam of golden light that barely pierced the ocean of black ink around them. "What did I tell you?" Father said. Then, the man's hand fell upon his son's shoulder, and the surrounding darkness seemed lighter. "I'll allow you that, Noah," Lum admitted, chuckling. He slapped Cap on the back so hard the boy stumbled. "Didn't think your boy had the grit." "Cap may be knee-high to a milk stool, but he's as full as grit as any boy twice his size," Father said, his words now certain. "And he's near to reaching his 13th year. He'll be a man soon." At those words, Cap unconsciously stretched himself, trying to look taller. The men began to scrape dirt back into the tunnel. "Back to work, boy," Lum barked. "You'll make a poor fist of this business with your lazy dog ways." With fingers aching from the cold, Cap seized another shovel and began to heave clods of earth into the hole, while his thoughts roiled in his head. Father had warned him to obey Lum's orders and keep his trap shut, but words sprouted from the boy's lips before he could stop them. "This tunnel was a fool idea," he blurted, shoveling dirt as fast as he could into the hole. "It'll take us an hour to fill it in. We should have just dug through the dirt right above the grave. It's still soft from where they made the hole this morning." "All right then, you smart-mouthed little cur," Lum hissed. He grabbed Cap's arm and steered him back to the wagon. "If you don't like your job, you take the clothes off. We gotta leave them or we're stealing, remember?" Father hurried over. "I'll do that," he said. "My boy will finish filling the tunnel." With a wheezing chuckle, Lum dropped Cap's arm and the boy returned to his shovel, his shoulders sagging with relief. He'd forgotten one detail. The law said it was illegal to steal from the dead. You couldn't take jewelry or anything buried with them, including their clothing. The law said nothing about stealing the dead themselves. They weren't anybody's property. "Who's there?" a man shouted. The sudden sound pierced the cold night air. Cap dropped his shovel and whirled. Light glowed in the distance, and the cemetery gate clanged open. "Run, boy!" Lum said. "Your pa and I'll take care of the goods. You scat! You'll slow us down." Without hesitation, Cap darted into the trees at the far edge of the forest cemetery and flew across fields lying bleak in the cold November air. Shouts grew fainter by the moment. His breath came out in harsh gasps, and his chest and legs ached something fierce. Still, he ran, stumbling over frozen furrows and clattering across the wooden footbridge that crossed the stream and led to his streets. Finally, the welcoming shape of his home loomed ahead. Cap squeezed through the gap in the fence. With a heart clattering like horses' hooves on a cobbled street, he hurried to the old willow tree. The hanging branches, bare and brittle, parted with thin whispers as he slithered through them. Reaching the well-hidden door that led to his workshop, he slipped inside. Cap plopped down onto the stool beside his work table and struggled to breathe. Then he dropped his head onto his folded arms, near to worn out. If his work ended up like this, night after night, raising the dead was going to kill him.